Ladies and gentlemen, this RedGamingTed.com video, we're going to be discussing Phil Spencer's keynotes at Gamescom. And now, unlike previous events, for example the Sony and Microsoft ones, this wasn't actually live streamed, so we're going to be analysing various notes and comments from various websites and discussing really what his address was about and his focus. So Philip Roster, who is the Minister of Economics and Technology, was on stage and he was discussing that he was actually one of the first generation of gamers. He started playing way back in the dawn of ZX81. Now, of course, this is not the case, as most of the time he spent being the chairman of the Free Democratic Party, but he still says that he loves games, and more importantly, they are a huge part of the German economy. There are 30,000 companies. 30 billion euros are generated from those 30,000 companies. And you can imagine just how important that is. It's actually one of the most important, one of the most critical industries in gaming. He also says that not only are games the driving force behind new technologies, but more to the point, the next generation is going to significantly boost the economy, with players spending all their moolah and new hardware coming out, people no doubt wanting to obviously do other things, because let's face it, when you buy a new console, it's invariable that you're going to buy maybe a better sound system for that, or maybe a new TV, or faster internet connections to, enjoy your gaming on, of course, all the software, the paraphernalia, the controllers, goodness knows what else. All of this is a given, and all of those little companies that help to produce little tiny things, like, for example, the screws and washers that go into, say, speakers, to the plastic for consoles, and goodness knows what else. Even those who supply the water for, that's the water drinking bottles, for example, the big coolers that go in offices. Obviously, even those get extra money from the companies that are producing all these games, and this is really important. Also, games are very important for mechanical engineering, and indeed they can even provide systems which help in the industry. As a slight aside, in Sony's own conference yesterday, there was a lot of talk about how car manufacturers were enjoying Gran Turismo's technology because they could actually use it to preview and get a handle on how games would actually, or should I say, how cars would actually handle in real world. And so the games themselves are responsible for a lot of the growth that is currently happening in Germany, which actually, by the way, got a lot of applause from the audience. He also said that the gaming industry should be proud of what they have managed to achieve in such a short period of time. Think about this. This is a very, very, very important fact, because gaming is often considered marginalized and placed in the who the hell games? Gaming's boring, gaming's crap, it's not an adult thing to do. But in reality, of course, this isn't the case. Gaming is becoming huge. It's something that not only can people learn, and this is actually one of my own reasons that I love gaming and technology, because not only does it help you learn, it also helps drive technology forward. It produces better graphics cards, and goodness knows we wouldn't have the proliferation of GPU and so on as well if we didn't really have gaming. Now, apparently, over half of all the gamers in Germany are women. And so they actually had a female on stage, and her name, I'm really hoping I've pronounced this correctly, she is the Minister of Federal Affairs for Europe and Media, and her name is Angelika Schwalderlen. I'm really hoping I've pronounced that correctly, probably not. And the industry, just in North Rhine alone, has about 380,000 people employed. I just want to say that number again, because it's astounding. 380,000 people. Not only that, but when there are events such as, say, Gamescom, you can imagine just how many people turn up to those events and how the city itself becomes alive. It becomes this tourist attraction. More to the point, you can imagine that hotels get booked up, that drinks industries, food industries, all of them just make so much business on events like this. She wished everyone a successful Gamescom, and she also said, and I quote, "We're looking forward to a production exchange and many fruitful collaboration." It's worth noting that from what the reports are, the crowd went so wild, they went so crazy, it actually dwarfs the Sony conference at E3 that happened this year for the PlayStation 4 announcement, because she's saying that France themselves are partnering with Gamescom this year, and she says that, you know, she's proud of that. And so you can see now a change in the media. And now, of course, we actually have Phil Spencer speaking. He's not here to market the Xbox. That's not what his purpose is while he's there. Of course, just how truthful that's going to be and so on is a bit difficult to understand. The first thing he really starts to speak about, ironically enough, is the future right here is the cloud. The future here is a future powered by cloud computing. He believes that it's the power to allow us to create and share and whatever gaming. And the idea behind this is that games can become a lot more personalized, a lot more accessible to people. He also believes that there are going to be a lot of new trends in the next generation, and there's going to be a significant amount of new challenges in this next generation. Obviously, now for many people, we're going to have to start deciding just how games are going to be distributed, how stories are going to be told, and indeed, they even say that the storytellers are now given so much more power because of the cloud, for example, and because of this next generation of technology with the Blu-ray drives and everything else, that they're allowed to tell stories that are so much more interactive, so much more powerful, so much more content rich than they ever have before because of the various technical constraints. Now, for those of you who are regular viewers on RGT, we have spoken quite substantially about cloud computing previously, and you'll know that I do have a couple of reservations on it. If you guys want more details on that, you can check out the videos. I don't want to overload this one too much. But from what we do know, of course, there is going to be some latency involved. But I think for certain games, as I've mentioned dozens of times now, I think for certain games, for certain persistent world titles, it's going to be really cool. For certain games, like, for example, the Fables, the Elder Scrolls, the Grand Theft Autos, and I think it could create much more persistent worlds. I do have certain issues with the cloud, but I'll probably go into in a different video that I haven't really covered previously. But now, it's not just a case of algorithms. It's all about what the developer understands about your experience. One example that they gave is, and I quote, "Imagine a game that could recognize a change in engagement or recognize you blinking or changing expression. That's becoming possible today, and developers are just starting to scratch the surface. And that stuff can only be extracted and configured with the cloud." Now, of course, Microsoft have been very keen to show off the various technologies in the Xbox One in terms of the Kinect sensitivity, and it's been said that it can easily distinguish things such as finger movement and so on. On the other hand, John Carmack, it's worth noting, has also somewhat blasted Kinect. He said, and I quote, this is not my words, this is his words, that it's kind of like using a buttonless mouse, but with lots of latency. Now, I don't know just how apprised he is of Kinect 2, so I don't want to make a judgment. I'm going to really wait on this one. I'm going to really check out Kinect personally, and I'm going to give you guys my honest opinions, because that's, well, the fair way to do things, rather than me make these judgments. And, you know, the technology's not even finished yet. So once again, this is just what John was saying, not myself. So obviously he possibly knows better than I do. In other words, he's most likely got the latest development kit, so I don't really know how accurate that information is, however. Now, he also was discussing accessibility, And the server technology allows much better access to gamers. Now, this is something that we've also discussed in Azure computing. You guys can search Azure on the channel for lots more information on that. Now, the purpose is that it allows you to stream better extravagant graphics. Now, we have spoken about this before. I just want to quickly go into it a little bit more. There are issues with this, mostly on games that you need to sync to a frame. In other words, you need an instantaneous reaction to something. But for things that aren't like that, for things that happen in the background, that's not really a case. And in the average, this his words, in the average day of a consumer, they play tablets, and more people are playing games now than ever. So, anyone who's really paying any somewhat attention to this, you'll notice that he's not talking about the Xbox, right? He's definitely not talking about the Xbox. It's just Kinect-based technology and the cloud, so it's not really the Xbox. But anyway, I'm just teasing, of course. Of course, we knew he was going to speak about it a little bit. I don't particularly have any issues with that. But the purpose behind the cloud technology is it allows developers to be able to do so much more. They're able to basically spin up servers, start servers, create servers, utilize those servers, and to be able to use those servers in a manner that's fitting for the game's technology. For example, for dedicated servers, for persistent worlds, whatever they need, and they can use that technology to be able to produce much more better AI, for example. However, once again, this does have some issues that we have discussed before, and I'm not 100% sold on it myself. Now, Spencer was very keen to point out that they don't believe that one device is king. They don't believe that there's this one magical, mystical device anymore that sits in your living room and that's it. He believes that now all devices are starting to become what he calls intelligently connected. It's very difficult to know exactly why he points that out. So, almost all of the Xbox One launch titles do utilize the power of cloud technology in some way or another. We know, for example, about Call of Duty and whatever else. I do have some issues with that, but they also utilize the cloud to personalize the games for each and every player. And they'll actually use those analytics. They'll be able to extract their data and figure out what modes are the most popular, how players engage in certain things, and then they can basically use this. If you're not very familiar with it, there's an application from Google known as Google Analytics. Many of you are probably familiar with it, and what you can basically do with that is you can take that data and you can say, okay, I see that, on average, I get 1,000 people, just for example, a day on my website, and I noticed that 100 of them, that's 10%, go to this page, but I noticed that, this page isn't that popular because they go straight back within 2 seconds, so I need to fix that section or page from the site. And this is similar to games technology now, because games are becoming so prohibitively expensive to produce. It's not just a simple case of, well, we can keep throwing cash on the problem. How can you keep throwing cash on a problem when you don't really know how to spend the money on? This has been something that a lot of developers have been wanting to understand. It's not just a simple case of, well, keep throwing the money on the problem. Yeah, anyone can keep throwing money on the problem, but Electronic Arts, even Microsoft, they are not this bottomless pit of, funds. They are not, it's not like Scrooge McDuck's money bit, the old cartoon where he used to literally swim about in money. It's not like that. There are real financial issues here at stake. So it does make sense what they're saying, but once again, this does bring into other issues such as privacy concerns. He also goes into YouTube and how certain channels are growing exponentially and how gaming channels now are one of the most popular forms of entertainment on YouTube and the internet, and how cloud technology is what they believe is going to be the future. And of course, they consider themselves to be creative leaders in this stuff, and Microsoft's ability to innovate is magnitude by innovations in technology. Those are their words, of course. And we do know that Microsoft do have the Azure technology, which is one of the biggest cloud manufacturers, or should I say cloud providers. Manufacturers is the wrong wording. We also have, of course, as we've discussed quite heavily before, we also have a couple of other really big ones, such as Amazon Web Services and Rackspace, which also provide a lot of stuff. It's worth noting that Rackspace are going to be working alongside Sony, because Sony's own needs are starting to increase quite exponentially as well. And so they are, of course, betting a lot of their dollars on this gaming experience. They're betting a lot of the money on the fact that they do have this cloud-based technology. Now, it's quite interesting that Microsoft are pushing this so heavily, but it's not at the same time. We all know that Microsoft want a very connected experience, and the problem with this connected experience, the issue that a lot of people have with it, is that a lot of people are still not convinced by it. Mark Cerny himself has said, it doesn't sound like sour grapes to me from Mark, because he has said that, that the PlayStation 4 could handle cloud, basically very similar to that of the Xbox, but they don't believe in it. Now, that isn't to say that Mark's right. That's the important thing. Mark is a smart man, but it doesn't mean he's right about all things. Microsoft, on the other hand, are extremely confident in the cloud-based technology, and that's really how they are pushing their technology. So, overall, it was a fairly brief, and it didn't really tell us anything particularly new. He ended up by saying that they're going to be hitting the show floor tomorrow, and we'll have actual new things to tell you. See you then. And this is not exactly an exciting thing. I mean, I was kind of hoping to see the release date of the Xbox One and for them to tell you, yeah, it's being released, at some point in the next, 2 years, whatever. Take your pick here. But even so, once again, Microsoft just really hammering home their vision of the cloud, and I'm not saying they're wrong to do so. I'm not saying that they have grounds to not, say so, but it does kind of irritate me when they say, yeah, we're not going to be trying to sell you anything, we're not going to be trying to push the Xbox One. Okay, so why aren't you telling us about, games as a whole? But it's all about cloud-based technology, which is, strangely enough, exactly what you guys are pushing. I'm not saying that, I don't like the Xbox or whatever. It just, this kind of really obvious marketing, it's why even say that I'm not going to try and sell you the Xbox. It just makes you look, in my opinion, it makes you look like a twit. It just, no one falls for it. But regardless, I was quite impressed with the overall conference. I was really impressed by the fact that gaming now in Germany is becoming so much of a profitable experience. I mean, damn, I didn't expect so many people to be employed. I mean, I knew it was going to be big, but I didn't know the numbers were going to be so just so gargantuan, really. Anyway, that's been a fairly short video, I'm sure you'll agree, but hopefully you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.